الإمام حسن بن علي المجتبى.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, His glorious book, وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِمْ فِعْلَ الْخَيْرَاتِ وَإِقَامَ الصَّلَاةِ وَإِيتَاءِ الزَّكَاةِ وَكَانُوا لَنَا عَابِدِينَ. Surah Al-Anbiya, verse 73. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in chapter 21, Al-Anbiya, the prophets, verse 73, and we made them imams who guided people by our command. And we revealed to them the doing of good and keeping up of prayers and giving of the alms, and us alone did they serve. So this ayah has been interpreted. Who are those imams? Who are those who are going to, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appointed them to be the guiders, the imams? They will guide by our command, means by Allah's command, by God's command. And also we reveal to them that they're supposed to do good and keep up prayers and give alms and will not worship but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the interpretation of this ayah, they were the angels. Because the angels, they are going to only worship Allah and obey Allah. And in another interpretation, of course, it is also the imams. And who are those imams? We believe that, like our 12 imams, they are like the branches of that prophetic tree. So if we consider like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
it's like a tree. So the imams, the 12 imams, they are the tree's branches, and they are supposed to be 12. And even like when they said, like even like the disciples of Isa alayhi salam, so in some narrations there are 12. Or for Moses there are 12. Now, according to these narrations that we have from Muslim sources, when I say Muslim sources, it means both, like Shia and non-Shia. The Prophet ﷺ, the other from the Shia sources, we know that there are 12 imams and he named them. He started them with Ali, Hassan, Hussein, Ali ibn Hussein, Muhammad al-Baqir, Jafar al-Sadiq, Musa al-Kazim, Ali al-Rida, Muhammad al-Jawad, Ali al-Hadi al-Hassan al-Askari, and Muhammad ibn al-Hassan al-Hujja al-Muntadhir, Hajja Allah ta'ala farajah al-Shaykh. And according to non-Shia sources, we also have some narrations which emphasize the number 12. So there are 12 imams. And just to mention some of these narrations, which is narrated in Bukhari. As you know, Bukhari is one of the famous non-Shia books, and it's considered Sahih al-Bukhari, which means whatever narrated in this book, it is correct and supposed to be accepted by non-Shia brothers, the Sunni brothers. So he says, the Prophet ﷺ says, يَكُونُ 12 أَمِيرًا. There are going to be 12, Amir, which means that there are like kind of 12 imams or princes. Okay? And then he said, كُلُّهُمْ مِنْ قُرَيْشٍ. And all of them from Quraysh. Quraysh is a big or a combination of 10 tribes who settled down in Mecca. city of Mecca. So when we say Quraysh, it doesn't mean one tribe. 10 tribes, included Bani Hashim, Bani Umayyah, and others. And then, also tolerated by Muslim, is one of the Sahih books of Sunni brothers. Sahih books, again, it is like they accepted everything in that book. إن هذا الأمر لا ينقضي حتى يمضي فيهم 12 خليفة. So as if this life is not going to end unless they will have or they will see 12 caliphs. Okay? And also he said, كلهم من قريش. All of them from Quraysh. And when we come to the interpretation of those 12 ones, who are they? According to the Sunni sources, not to the Shia sources. We are going to see, like, different interpretations. Some of them, like you can say it is weird. So we cannot accept it at all. Now, who are they? Some of them, they said, as Ibn Hajar, he is one of the Sunni writers, and Al-Qadi Iyad. He said, المراد بهم الخلفاء الذين اجتمع عليهم الناس وهم أبو بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي ومعاوية ويزيد وعبد الملك وأولاده الأربعة الوليد سليمان يزيد هشام وعمر بن عبد العزيز ابن سليمان ويزيد. So he said they are the four caliphs, started with Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, and next is going to be Muawiyah, Yazid, and then, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, he executed Marwan, because Marwan is very obvious, he's one of the hypocrites, and his sons, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan and his 4 sons. This is weird. Why? How can he count those people? For example, Yazid. What did he do? Yazid, when he became the ruler or the Khalifa for 3 years, the first year he killed Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Second year he attacked the city of the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Medina, and he killed thousands of people. And over 1,000 women have been raped. And 1,000 virgin women gave birth to, they weren't married, they were virgin, so they were raped by the army of Yazid, and they gave birth to, babies, over 1,000. And the 3rd year, he attacked Mecca, the holy city, and he attacked Mecca with, catapults. Imagine that. How can you consider this person who was alcoholic or a drunk person? And maybe some people say, what's wrong with that? Especially here in the West, drinking is something very common. But according to the Islamic teachings, you cannot be the Khalifa or the leader of Muslims. And when it comes to Al-Walid ibn Yazid ibn Abdul Malik, so he was drinking alcohol on the roof of Kaaba. Imagine, the Khalifa of Muslims, and he is doing this. And he was those 2 writers, they consider this one of the Khalifas that the Prophet talked about. And when he opened the Quran, so this ayah came to him, وَاسْتَفْتَحُوا وَخَابَ كُلُّ جَبَّارٍ عَنِيدٍ وَخَابَ كُلُّ جَبَّارٍ عَنِيدٍ. And they asked for judgment, and every insolent opposer was disappointed. So this is what came to him, that when he just opened the Quran, then he torn the Quran with arrows. And he was saying تهددني بجبار عنيد فها أنا ذاك جبار عنيد إذا ما جئت ربك يوم حشر فقل يا ربي مزقني الوليد. Are you threatening me with a very powerful one and insolent? So I am the one like this. When you come to your Lord, he was talking to the Quran after he torn the Quran with arrows. So when you come back or when you are going to meet your Lord, he was talking to the Quran, tell him, Al-Walid tore me apart. Imagine, this is a Khalifa, consider a Khalifa? Of course not. So we cannot accept all of that, and we supposed to come with the Shia interpretation of 12 Imams. Okay? Because all of them, they were the righteous people, the most knowledgeable ones, and they were infallible as we understand. And those supposed to guide people, they're supposed to have knowledge, and to be righteous ones, and to be role models. You cannot choose and pick. One time I was watching one of the priests. He said, religion is like eating fish. It is like, you can choose. No, we can't do this. Religion is religion as we understand religion as Muslims, okay? I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm talking about Islam. As Islam, we need to take the whole religion. But how we can understand it? Are we going to go with the interpretation of 12 Imams of the Sunni sources or the Shia sources? We cannot accept the Sunni sources at all. Even with the 4 Khulafa, like Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman and Ali, we can't. One of the discussion between one of our scholars and a Sunni person, when he approached him, he said, if you consider them like when there is as we say, it is a fabricated narration when the Prophet said, Al-Khulafa'u min ba'di arba'a. That the Khalifas, after me, there are 4 Khalifas. So, we cannot accept this. Why? Because they are the real Khalifas of the Prophet. They're supposed to have one line, one way. Not one is going to contradict the other one. For example, Abu Bakr, he just did what the Prophet did. Then Umar, he changed the way by distributing the money based on the tribal dignity. So he put Bani Hashim the first one, and then Quraysh, then Ansar, and then non-Arab, and so on and so forth. No, it's not right. This is another interpretation that we cannot accept. It is only those 12 Imams. Now, talking about Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, the second Imam, he was born in the house of, we say, the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who were, his parents? Imam Ali and Zahra. So when you study the character of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, you can see it is the same character of the Prophet. And you can see the spiritual side of Zahra alayhi salam, and the knowledge of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and the respect or dignity of the Prophet. So it is a kind of, he summarizes the 3 characters. And he was one of the righteous people. People used to respect him. When he went to Mecca to perform Hajj, and when he was walking, he didn't ride a camel or another animal. He was walking. Everyone who saw him, they got down and they were walking with him. Even Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. He was one of the highly respected people, even though he wasn't a Shia. But he respected Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he respected Imam Hassan alayhi salam. This person, he also walked with him when he saw him walking. And when we talk about him, we talk about this person that he was raised by Ali and Zahra alayhi salam. He learned that he's supposed to listen to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his grandfather, and then he will come back to come back home and he will tell his mom about what the Prophet said. And then she is going to tell Imam Ali about what the Prophet said. How did you know? He will ask her. She said, Hassan told me because he listened. You see, this is how we can teach our kids. That when they come to the mosque, they need to sit, they need to listen. And this is how we are going to raise them. And also, when they grew up, they witnessed all the difficulties that her father went through until he became the Khalifa for 6 months. And then he had to sign the peaceful treaty with Muawiyah for the sake of Muslims' interest. This is another lesson that we can learn from Imam Hassan alayhi salam. He wasn't weak. He wasn't like, unlike Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein, some people say he was a revolutionary person. And Imam Hassan, he is like, a peaceful person. No. They will do what is required or needed for the sake of Ummah, of Muslims at that time. That's why he signed that peaceful treaty with Muawiyah. Now, we know that always righteous people, like the Prophet, when he was preaching, Quraysh had their propaganda against him, and they called him a liar, witch, and so on and so forth. Same thing with Imam Ali alayhi salam. They didn't want to admit that he is one of the great people. Same thing with Imam Hassan. Then they accuse him, he's a weak person. He just liked to marry women, and he divorced hundreds of women. And it is, of course, all of these are lies. Why? Because we know that all these narrations have been fabricated during the time of Muawiyah. Like what we see these days, you cannot even trust one kind of media because they are flipping the facts. Now, when we want to focus more on his character, let's listen to what he was saying. So I'm going to just read some of the sayings. Imam Hassan alayhi salam says, "Man qara'a al-Qur'an." Alhamdulillah, kulluna yaqra al-Qur'an. "Man qara'a al-Qur'an kanat lahu da'watun mujada, imma mu'ajjala aw mu'ajjala." Imam Hassan alayhi salam said, the one who recites the Qur'an has the supplication of his answer, be it immediately or later, which means when you recite Quran, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted it from you, not just by your tongue, of course, because some people are going to do this. Let's finish this khatma, and then Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. He doesn't know what he got, okay? Quran is not like for these things. Quran is a guidance for all of us. So we need to read it with what? Tafakkur. Excellent. You need to think about it. Okay? You need to ponder. And if you are going to read Quran, it is not about how many pages, how much you are going to read. Some people, they have like this habit, which is good, but with this condition. Each week we're supposed to finish one juz'u, which means like at least 20 pages. Why? Because we need to read more, and they will have like 30 people to recite one khatma and so on and so forth. This is not right. You are not going to get this kind of answer dua if you are going to do this. Do as the Imams used to do. Recite it with thinking, tafakkur. And of course, when you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will answer your dua. Now, another narration. Imam Hassan al-Mushtaba said, "Ma naqasat zakatun min malin qat." Which means that Imam is saying that when you are giving zakat, alms, charity, You think, oh, I have $100 when I pay 20, so I lost 20. No, it's the opposite. You have earned this money with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is not going to diminish wealth. It is the contrary, it's going to increase it, inshallah. So don't think that when you give, you are going to lose. When you give, you are going to gain more and more. And of course, shaitan always going to whisper to you, oh, you have only this amount of money. Be careful, don't do this, don't do that. Then, one time, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he was giving an advice. There was a person approached him and he asked him, شخص اجى للإمام فسأله يستشير الإمام في تزويج ابنته فقال الإمام زوجها من رجل تقي أول صفة المفروض والتقوى فإنه إن أحبها أكرمها وإن أبغضها لم يظلمها. A man approached the Imam and he asked him, I have daughters and people are proposing my daughter. What should I do? Imam immediately told him, you need to marry her with the pious one, with the one who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't tell him about his education, about his wealth, about his family. Number one is taqwa. This is going to apply for both. Okay, why is that? Because Imam, he told us why. He said because if he loved her, so he is going to honor her. But if he didn't like her, he is not going to be unjust to her or towards her. This is important. And of course, in other narrations, like we need two, taqwa and good manners. Many, many times when people are calling me about divorce, sometimes they are beating their wives, and sometimes they are so stingy, like bukhul. One of the stories, you think that it's not going to happen? No, it happened. A real story. One time, the husband is so stingy, he's so bakhil, He has one daughter, and that daughter is supposed to go to school. So her mother just put a box of snacks, like for lunchtime. You know what the father did? He just opened that, candy or snacks. It was wrapped up with paper or whatever. And then he just tried to make it still there, in it. And he put it back. When that poor daughter, when she went to school during lunchtime, she took out the candy and tried to open it. There was nothing in it. So the father ate it. She came crying to her mom. Imagine we have some people like this.
Wow.
Imam Hassan alayhi salam was saying, and please pay attention to this narration. He says, "Al-ghaflatu tarkuka al-masjid." يعني الإمام لم يقل أنه لا تصلي لا تصوم لا تقرأ القرآن، تركك المسجد وطاعتك المفسد. كلمة الطيب إنسان مفسد. هذا الإنسان قد يكون عاصي، قد يكون منافق، هذا مفسد. فعليك أن تنتبه. Imam al-Hassan said, alayhi salam, negligence or being heedless, like when you have ghafla, kind of you forget things. Not physically or mentally, there's nothing wrong mentally, okay? Okay, is the manifest in your abandonment of the mosque when you are not going to come to masjid. You see, this interpretation is very nice. Masjid is so essential. It's not just for worshipping, it's to meet with people, to gain this kind of spiritual, let's say, fuel, if we can put it in this way. It is so essential, brothers and sisters, that each step is going to be rewarded, especially if you are going to drive far away from the mosque. If I want to be frank with you, like especially with Salatul Jumu'ah. Salatul Jumu'ah is so essential and important, and is going to bring your sins back or down to zero when you attend Salatul Jumu'ah. And in many narrations, like encouraging us to attend Salatul Jumu'ah, Friday prayers, is Hajjul Masakeen. So it is like Hajj. Hajj means when you go to Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to bring your sins down to zero, erase all your sins. So every week you can bring it down to zero, make it zero. By coming to Salatul Jumu'ah sincerely, when you pray Salatul Jumu'ah, some people will take 1 hour off for their children. They will take them out of school to attend Salatul Jumu'ah, then they will take them back to school. And now there is a suggestion by some imams to, allow to make the schools, allow the children, Muslim children, to get out to attend Salatul Jumu'ah. Anyhow, so attending the mosque is so important. So if you don't want to be heedless, so you need to attend or to come to the mosque. And be careful, do not be obedient of the corrupt. One last narration, brothers and sisters. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, في جواب رجل قال له إني من شيعتكم. الناس كانت تأتي للإمام تقول له نحن من شيعتكم. يقول الإمام علي، الإمام حسن، الإمام الصادق، الإمام الباقر، نحن من شيعتك. فهنا الإمام يوضح، قال يا عبد الله، كلام لطيف، إن كنت لنا في أوامرنا وزواجرنا مطيعا فقد صدقت، يعني أنت من شيعتنا. خلينا نفهم شنو معنى الشيعة. الشيعة مو بس أنت مولود في عائلة شيعية، مو أنت تقوم ببعض الممارسات الشيعية، لا. الإمام يقول إذا أنت تطيعنا في أوامرنا في زواجرنا، أنت تتخذنا قدوة حسنة في كل مواقفنا، ما في تناقض في مواقفك، فقد صدقت. وإن كنت بخلاف ذلك فلا تزد في ذنوبك. حتى هذا الادعاء هو بذنب. بدعواك مرتبة شريفة لست من أهلها. لا تقل أنا من شيعتكم، ولكن قل أنا من مواليكم محبيكم ومعادي أعدائكم، وأنت في خير وإلى خير. So Imam Hassan al-Mushtaba answered one man or a man when he told him, verily I am one of your Shia. I am one of your real followers. So the Imam said, oh Abdullah, if you are truly obedient to us in our commands and the invitations, you are real Shia with us. You are real followers of us. But if you don't, do not increase or do not add to your sins more sins by falsely claiming such a dignified position that you are not worthy of. Do not say, I am one of your Shia, but say, well, I am one of your adherents and one of your lovers and an enemy to your enemy. You are good and aiming towards good. So, some people, when we remember the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Sayyid Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr once said, Umar ibn Sa'd cried for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But he killed him. Imagine, you are crying for someone, but you are going to kill him. He said, we don't want to be like him. People, not all people of Kufa, but some of them, they were like this. They loved Imam Hussein alayhi salam, but at the same time, they didn't obey them. They stood stood up against them, and they participated in killing Imam Hussein. So, when we read these narrations, brothers and sisters, always we need to differentiate between two things: love and being loyal to Imam, being obedient to Imam. Being obedient to Imam is so hard that you need to work hard to gain this level. So Imam Hassan alayhi salam, all his life was for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One time, دخل الحسن على رسول الله. One time when Imam Hassan alayhi salam came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, فلما رآه الرسول بكى. When the Prophet saw the Imam, he cried. Then he said, إلي يا بني, come to me, O Hassan, come to me. And then he brought him closer to him until he made him sit on his lap. And the Prophet started to cry. فبكى الرسول. سأله الإمام الحسن أو سئل الرسول, why do you cry? He said, أما الحسن فإنه ابني وولدي ومني وقرة عيني وضياء قلبي وثمرة فؤادي. He said, my son is Hassan, and the comfort of my eye is Hassan, and the light of my heart is Hassan, and he is the master of the youth of the heaven. And whatever he says means I said it. Anyone who is going to follow him means that he followed me, and anyone who is going to disobey him, it means that he disobeyed me. And then the Prophet said, but he is going to be killed by poison, ظلما وعدوانا. So he is going to be poisoned by his enemies, and of course by who? He was poisoned by his wife, who was convinced by Muawiyah. He told her, if you are going to kill Hassan, then I'm going to marry you with my son Yazid. And she believed him, and she put the poison in the food to Imam Hassan alayhi salam. لله قلبك ما لقيت من الأذى من كل ناصب حتى سئمت جوارهم ورغبت من أسنى المراتب سمتك جعدة صائما أفديك من ضام وسابق. Until his wife Ja'da bint al-Ash'ad, she put the poison for him. In other narration, Imam Hussein alayhi salam came to Imam Hassan alayhi salam when he was poisoned, when he was sick, and he asked him, oh my brother, how do you feel? Oh Imam Hassan, how do you feel? قال أنا في آخر يوم من أيام الدنيا. I'm the last day of the days of this world life. وأول يوم من أيام الآخرة, and the first days of the other life. ثم أوصى إليه, and then he started to tell him about his will. وقال يا أخي إذا مت فغسلني وحنطني وكفني واحملني إلى قبر جدي رسول الله حتى تلحدني إلى جانبه. He said, if I'm going to die, so wash my body, and of course, do the kafan for me, and try to bury me next to the Prophet, to our grandfathers. But if you couldn't do this, please, I ask you for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I ask you for the love of our grandfather and our father and our mother, don't ever try to get in any problem or any war with those who are going to prevent you from doing this. And that's what happened. They prevented our Imam to be buried next to his grandfather. Then Imam Hussein alayhi salam took him to the Baqi and buried him in some narration to be his mother's neighbor, like he was next to his mom, Fatima Zahra. And imagine Imam Hassan alayhi salam was buried, but what about Imam Hussein alayhi salam? His body and his sons and cousins' bodies, they were on the ground for 3 days until they were buried. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi راجعون. يوم به الحسن الزكي قضى بسم في المشارب، يوم به الإسلام يبكي هاتفا شجوا ونادب. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. يا الله يا الله يا الله، اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك بحق محمد وآل محمد. اللهم اقض حوائج المحتاجين، اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات، اللهم الحاضرين جميعا تقبل أعمالهم، اقض حوائجهم، شافي مرضاهم وشافي كل مريض. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يحصل على شفاعة النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وأهل بيته. اللهم اجعلنا من السائرين على نهج أهل البيت عليهم السلام إلى أرواح أمواتكم وأمواتنا وأموات المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات، لا سيما العلماء والشهداء، لا سيما من مات مظلوما في العراق وفي باكستان وفي كل بلاد المسلمين في كل العالم. رحم الله من يقرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات.